The rain had just begun to fall when Emma's car came to a slow, reluctant stop on the lonely stretch of highway. The gray clouds above mirrored the weight pressing down on her chest. The sound of raindrops hitting the hood felt like the universe was quietly sobbing with her. She gripped the steering wheel, her knuckles pale, her breath trembling. She didn't look at him, at Ryan, because she knew if she did, her resolve would crumble. They had been silent for miles, and silence had never been this loud before. Finally, she turned, her voice breaking the air like glass. "You can leave me here," she said, her tone hollow, but her eyes pleading for something she didn't even understand anymore. Ryan didn't move. His hand tightened around the steering wheel, jaw tense, heart pounding. When he finally spoke, his voice was low, rough, and full of something deeper than pride. "That's not who I am. Before we continue, if you believe in kindness, second chances, and the power of love that refuses to give up, please take a moment to like this video, comment your thoughts below, share it with someone who needs hope, and subscribe to the channel. Your support helps keep these heartfelt stories alive." The day had begun with sunlight, laughter, and the promise of something ordinary, something safe. Emma and Ryan were supposed to be going on a weekend trip to her mother's cabin, a few hours outside Seattle. It wasn't supposed to be the day everything fell apart. They had been together for 5 years. 5 years of love, mistakes, rebuilding, and believing that maybe, just maybe, they could outgrow their broken pasts. But love, as they had learned, wasn't always enough to drown out the ghosts that whispered from the corners of their lives. Ryan had been quiet all morning. He kept glancing at his phone, his brows drawn together. Emma noticed, but didn't ask. She had learned long ago that pressing him too soon was like tugging on a wound that hadn't healed. The rain started halfway through their drive, just as the argument began, about trust, about forgiveness, about the one word that had always haunted them: enough. "Am I enough for you, Ryan?" she had asked softly, her hands trembling. "Or am I just what's left when everything else goes wrong?" He didn't answer, not because he didn't care, but because he didn't know how to tell her that she was everything, and yet he still felt like nothing. His silence broke her. She turned away, watching the wet road blur into streaks of gray and green. The argument escalated, words spilling like rain, unstoppable and cold. By the time he pulled the car to the side of the road, they were both shaking. That was when she said it. "You can leave me here." It wasn't a challenge. It wasn't anger. It was surrender, a quiet acceptance that maybe this was where their story ended. But Ryan couldn't walk away. Not from her. Not from the woman who once held him when he was too broken to breathe. He looked at her, really looked, and saw the tears she was trying to hide. Her hair clung to her cheeks from the rain seeping through the open window, and she looked more fragile than he'd ever seen her. "That's not who I am," he whispered. His voice cracked slightly, betraying the weight of what he felt. Emma turned slowly toward him, her breath catching. There was a time when his words could light up her entire world. Now they just made her ache. "Then who are you, Ryan?" she asked quietly. He wanted to tell her everything. That he was the boy who grew up believing love was something that hurt more than it healed. That every time someone came close, he pushed them away before they could leave him first. That loving her terrified him because she saw him. Not the man he tried to be, but the boy still lost inside. Instead, he just said, "I'm someone who still believes in us." The words hung in the air, fragile and trembling like the rain around them. Emma stepped out of the car, wrapping her arms around herself as the drizzle turned heavier. The wet air bit at her skin, but the ache in her chest burned hotter. She walked to the edge of the road, staring out into the fog that rolled gently over the trees. She remembered the first time she met him. It was at a charity event in Portland. She was serving coffee at the counter, and he had come in with a smile that could have melted frost. He was charming, funny, and disarmingly kind, but beneath that warmth was a shadow, something she couldn't name back then. Over time she realized it was fear. Fear of being known, fear of being loved. Now, years later, that same fear had driven a wedge between them. He had lost his job 2 months ago, and instead of leaning on her, he had withdrawn, pretending everything was fine. Emma had tried to reach him, to make him talk, but every attempt ended in silence or deflection. She was tired of fighting for a man who seemed determined to shut her out. Ryan stepped out of the car too, the rain soaking through his jacket. He stood beside her, but didn't touch her. The road stretched endlessly ahead, empty and quiet. "You think I don't see you?" he said softly. "Emma, you're the only thing I see. You've been my anchor, my reason to try. I just didn't want you to see me fall apart." She looked at him then, really looked, and saw the exhaustion in his eyes. The kind that comes not from lack of sleep but from carrying too much for too long. Her anger melted, replaced by something raw, understanding. "Ryan," she said, her voice trembling, "I never wanted perfect. I just wanted you to let me in." The rain was relentless now, falling harder, soaking their clothes, but neither moved. He reached for her hand slowly, almost afraid she'd pull away. But she didn't. Her fingers were cold, shaking, but they fit perfectly in his. "Then come back," he whispered. "Don't walk away because I'm scared. Help me be better." She stared at him, tears mixing with rain, and for the first time in weeks, she saw a glimpse of the man she'd fallen in love with. The one who brought her coffee every morning with a note, who danced with her barefoot in the kitchen, who believed in happy endings even when the world was cruel. They stood there on that empty road, the sound of rain and their breathing the only witnesses to a fragile promise rebuilding itself piece by piece. As they drove again, the silence was different this time, softer, healing. Emma rested her head against the window, her heart heavy but hopeful. She knew they weren't fixed. You don't fix people, you love them through the cracks until light starts to seep in again. When they reached the cabin, the rain had stopped, replaced by a gentle mist. The air smelled of pine and wet earth. Inside, the fireplace was cold, but Ryan quickly gathered wood and lit it. The warmth flickered across his face as he turned to her. "You know," he said quietly, "I almost did leave that day. I thought walking away would protect you from me. But you were right. You can't protect people by disappearing. You love them by staying even when it's hard." Emma felt her throat tighten. She walked closer and placed her hands on his chest, feeling his heartbeat under her palms. "And I almost let you," she whispered, "because I was afraid of being the only one still trying. But I guess we both forgot that love isn't about winning or losing. It's about not quitting." The fire crackled softly, and the silence between them grew gentle again. They didn't speak for a long while. Sometimes words aren't needed. Sometimes just staying is enough. That night, as they sat together wrapped in a blanket, Emma watched the flames dance and thought about everything they had survived. Loss, fear, silence, pride. She realized that love was never about perfection. It was about choosing each other, again and again, even when it would be easier not to. And Ryan, watching her under the warm glow of the fire, finally felt the peace he had chased for years. He didn't have all the answers, he still had fears, doubts, flaws, but he knew one thing with absolute clarity: he wasn't going anywhere. Because love, real love, isn't found in grand gestures or perfect timing. It's found in the quiet decision to stay. If this story touched your heart or reminded you that real love means staying when it's hardest, please like this video, share it with someone who believes in second chances, and subscribe for more stories that speak to the soul. And before we end, comment below, would you stay for love even when it's breaking you, or would you walk away to protect your heart? As the fire burned low, Emma leaned her head against Ryan's shoulder. The world outside was still cold, but inside, it felt like dawn. Maybe they hadn't found the perfect ending, but they had found something far better, a beginning worth fighting for. Because sometimes, the most beautiful love stories aren't the ones that start perfectly. They're the ones that begin, again, on a rainy road with tears, forgiveness, and the simple whisper, "That's not who I am."